hot takes too, and it'll be a fun show.
Mangone is going to give crazy hot takes today. I love it. That's what I like to hear. And then the other one, we got AP. AP's back. AP, we're going to talk some baseball and some hoops.
Yeah, what's going on, man? I'm excited for both of these slates. It's going to be a ton of fun. The matchups on the NBA side are far better today than they were yesterday, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. So guys, like I said, we're going to run through this. Normally we talk about pitchers first, and then we go into all the games, game by game hitters. We're just going to start there. We're going to go game by game. And when there's pitchers that we like, we're just going to hit on them in the game. So that's how we're going to do it, just to kind of speed this up, just because we want to get through both MLB and NBA. So let's start off, guys. We're going to start off with Tampa versus Baltimore. Mangone, why don't you start us off here? Are there any pitchers that we like? And then if not, who are the hitters that we like?
Yeah, so I want to start off by saying, this is a really bad pitcher slate. If someone likes a pitcher on this slate, I just feel like they're lying to you. I don't know. It's just really, really bad. There's not a ton to love. Ultimately, I got, Yonny Chirinos in this game is the only guy I would consider. But here's the problem with a guy like Yonny Chirinos. I just don't think his leash is long enough to really be in consideration in cash games and in tournaments. The argument for Tommy Milone, if you want to make an argument for him, is the Rays could, gain some popularity. And if you want to just, try and leverage the field, go ahead. But I just think both these pitchers are not a great route to go. And then ultimately, I think the Rays are going to be a team that gets ownership today in some spots. And I think they have some decent price tags against a bad pitcher in Tommy Milone. This is over a 5.5 total. All in all, I think the Rays side of the bats are the only one I want, and looking to get exposure to, some of these guys at the top of the lineup that have some good price tags.
Yeah. All right. AP, what are you thinking here? Do you agree with Mangone, or are you on a different side?
I would be surprised if we agree through this whole thing. It's going to be funny. When it comes to MLB DFS, I'm usually pretty contrarian. I try to get off the chalk, and I try to find some spots that might be sneaky. And I don't want to completely go, and roster some sort of gas can, just bad pitcher. I want someone that's, high up, that can throw strikes, has a good matchup, and has some upside. And I think Tommy Milone is that. I think, this Rays lineup, we don't know what it is yet, but what I imagine that they'll throw out is a high strikeout lineup. And if they have some lefties in there, that's going to be great for Milone. So he's actually one of the guys I like, and I'm only playing tournaments, I should specify, when it comes to MLB. But he would be my guy in this game.
Yeah. All right. So let's move it on here. I like it to the Mets versus the Atlanta Braves. Mangone, start us off here.
Yeah, and I do want to piggyback off of a point that AP said. If you're playing tournaments, playing the chalk pitcher probably is not something you need to be doing. That's just something I want to mention. There's a small range of outcomes between all these pitchers right now, right? So ultimately, in something like tournaments, it's okay to obviously go with a off the board pitcher. And these are the times to try and get leverage in a spot if you want to in tournaments. So I just want to bring up that point. The Mets and Braves, we got, like you said, the 11 total here. This is a game that's going to have a lot of runs. If I look at it, David Peterson, he's not a guy I'm going to end up going to. This Braves lineup is not a team I want to attack. I don't see, 1,000 strikeouts in the lineup. If anything, I'd go to Kyle Wright as some type of tournament pivot, but none of these guys in my cash games and the pitcher spot. If you're talking, cash games for, hitting, man, there's a lot to like here. If you have the money for Ronald Acuna, he's a great play. The question is, do you want to play him or do you want to play a top-end Coors bat? That's really the thing you have to kind of debate and go over. All in all, I like the Braves side more than I do the Mets side, and that's probably the side that I would lean the most. I think on FanDuel specifically, the Mets have some decent price tags if you're looking for one of those cheap lefties to throw in your lineup, but I don't think the Mets are any type of priority on this slate.
AP, what are you thinking?
I mean, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We got a high total game here. And two pitcher. I mean, here's the thing about pitching with MLB right now. It's pretty gross. And what I found for me personally is night in and night out, I have a very tight and small, pitching pool. I'm only playing 3 to 5 guys, and I'm just hoping I have the right pool. And then what the other thing I'm doing is getting very defined in what stacks I'm going after. So I'm trying to be pretty narrow with how I attack things. I'm not playing either one of these guys. I'll go back to Tommy Malone, the guy I'm going to get overweight on for one of my pitchers. As far as bats here, yeah, I like this. Like what I'm doing in tournaments, since I know Coors is going to be extremely chalky today, I typically just like to fade it. Like I think we have a pitcher's ump down in Coors today. We got Zach Davies who can, limit hard contact. And I think these guys could just, tilt some people. So this is going to be one of those games that I think we could get some of these guys at lower ownership because of some of the other batting spots that we have on this slate. So I think the Braves are almost always in play. We got Acuna that I absolutely like. I think he can, absolutely attack this pitcher. The other thing that I do is I try not to stack like 1 through 5. I know when Big T's on, he hammers that all the time. It's just, if you stack 1 through 5, someone else is doing that same thing. And so you got to get different. You can get different with a guy like Adam Duvall. If he's in there, we don't have the lineups yet. You can play their catcher. Depending, if Austin Riley's in there, he's a guy that can hit home runs. I'm going to wait and see for when the lineups come out. And then I'm going to attack it then. But I definitely like the Braves side in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I'm liking the Braves too a lot in this matchup as well. So I'll agree with you there. Next game we got is the White Sox versus the Kansas City Royals. Mangone, talk about this game.
Yeah, so, we're at a point where we're at 2 pitchers I like, which is a weird thing to say. These are not 2 pitchers I would like on most slates, but this one I think they're in play. And the reason why I think they're in play is if you go through both of these lineups, right? You look at the White Sox and you look at the Royals. There's enough strikeouts in the lineup where I think at their price tags, right? I'm not having to pay, like 9.5K for these guys. They're a lot cheaper. FanDuel specifically, both these guys are really cheap. And they just allow you to jam in the back. So I think FanDuel, definitely you're either going Cease or Eunice in your cash games. I haven't made that final decision. I'll put that in my core plays when I have the final decision of what I'm going to do there. But ultimately, there's a lot of strikeouts in both lineups. So I want to attack those to just create that floor. If the guy gets blown up, he gets blown up. I'm going to have to call it a day and move on. But I think enough strikeout floor is what I'm looking for on this slate. And those guys really capture it on both sides for me. On the hitting side, listen, you can make a case for, the White Sox or the Royals. I get it. Totally understand. If you force me to pick, I would say the White Sox side is where I would lean. Just all those power bats make a ton of sense. But one thing to mention is this total has gone down from 10.5 to 10. So it's getting bet down a bit. So, I'm feeling a little more confident in those pitchers. Not my favorite pitchers in the world, but they're the ones I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Cease makes a lot of sense. At least he gives you somewhat of some strike up upside. AP, what are you thinking here?
I mean, this is where I'm going to have to disagree. We got him projected like Dylan Cease at, 50% ownership, if not more. And it's baseball. It's a high variance sport. I get it for cash games. Absolutely get it. But, we got a 5 point, or a 5. I think their implied run total is 5 on the Royals side. You got some competent bats, especially early in their lineup. And I'm not going to play Dylan Cease at 50+% ownership in my tournaments. I think he could definitely get blown up. It is a pitcher's park. I get the reasons why you play him, but this is going to be one of those spots that I get different. And what I found in tournaments is if I stack the team who is opposing the chalky pitcher, you can get extreme leverage by doing that. If the Royals absolutely punish this guy, they're naturally going to be lower owned in stacks since a lot of people are going to be playing him, and you can just leapfrog over everyone in tournaments. And so I actually like the White Sox side a little bit better. I'm going to keep riding them. I was on them yesterday. Very high on Luis Robert. He absolutely smashed. He was my top bat that I had in the tiers yesterday, which was nice to finally get that right because I roll out a lot of contrarian plays, and so it's very hit or miss, and that's just kind of my style with MLB. And but I like this White Sox side, and I think we're going to see a lot of runs here. I like the overall total that we have. Both bullpens are just absolutely terrible. And so how I'm going to do it, I don't know if I'm going to full game stack. I think I'm going to have a few Royal stacks where I'm stacking 5 of them up. I like Mondesi late in the lineup if he's there. I'll be going back to Witt. He had a nice day yesterday. I'll keep riding Jorge Soler, for him to get going. And then on the White Sox side, I mean, I'm going back to him. Yohan Moncada, I think I'll go back to him. I think he'll be the most popular play on that side. But I think we got to wait to see what their lineup looks like. But I think I might mix it up. I don't think I'm going to stack like 1 through 5 like I talked about. I might mix it up and depending on who's catching today. But if it's James McCann, I like him. And then, maybe going 7-2-1. And then one other bat like Eloy or Moncada, just to be a little bit different. And then you get a lot of salary saving by doing that. And then I can, target some of these other high upside spots like the Braves. And so that's just typically how I play MLB. I try to be a little bit different. And I think this is one of those unique spots where you can get different, where we could see a lot of runs and points scored.
AP, real quick, we have the White Sox lineup. It's Robert, Moncada, Jose Abreu, Grandal, Encarnacion, Eloy Jimenez, Nicky Delmonico, who's 2K. Then you got Danny Mendick. He is 2K and third base and shortstop eligible. And then Nick Madrigal, and he's 2.5K. So you got some really good value at the bottom if you want to mix that.
What's your guys' thoughts on Madrigal? I mean, he made a big, he threw a hissy fit over not being in their opening game or whatever. And then he was kind of terrible yesterday. He's super cheap. I know he's one of their prospects they like. I might go back to him. But I don't know. Do you guys have a thought on him at all? Or
I mean, he's second base eligible, so that could be fine. Second base is not the best, so that he can make some sense, obviously, with the wraparound stack too. So buy on the talent and for cheap, I don't hate it.
Awesome. Yeah. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'll be playing around with the lineup. I think this is going to be one of those nice spots, and it's definitely going to be different. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely going to be a contrarian take. I like it though. Cleveland versus Minnesota, the next game. Let's hit on this game, Mangone.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I just kind of want to stay away from this game. I just think this Aaron Savali guy, I just think he's too expensive. I don't want to spend on him. I'd maybe just go up to John Lester, who we'll get to instead. He's just kind of not someone I'm looking at in cash games. And I understand why people might want to. I get it. The Twins, they can strike out, but they do have a ton of power. And I'm just a little too nervous to be going to him. And no chance I'm going to Tyler Clipper here against the Indians. So I'm staying away from that. And the batters, I'm just not too excited. I guess maybe you do the twin stack in tournaments. They're always in play. They're kind of like the Yankees, like Big T has said on, a couple shows, you just kind of like to play them every day. I mean, they're just such great power bats, but that's all I really have from this game. Not a ton of interest, maybe on some twin stacks, but that's it.
Yeah. AP, do you agree? If you agree, we can just move on, or do you like something from this game?
I mean, I always like the Twins. I kind of stacked them up. I didn't do a full stack. I was looking for the one-offs, and I was just off. And I was chatting with Matty Ice about it, and he absolutely nailed who went off. Miguel Sano, I think. Yeah, had two bombs. We had him, and what you get with the Twins is you get a lot of power, you get a lot of upside, a lot of home run upside, and those type of plays can absolutely do it for you in tournaments. The problem is what I had yesterday is I had a perfect White Sox stack going, and then I had 3 Twins paired up with it, and it was not the 3 Twins that hit home runs. I think we had 2 Twin players hit home runs yesterday, but and so that's one of the issues that can come up. But I love this Twins lineup again. I think Aaron Savali might pitching is just so gross on this slate, and my problem is as we go through all these games, we're I'm going to have to find another pitcher that I get on because I haven't found one yet. But I'm not playing Aaron Savali. I like Max Kepler. Savali is actually shown higher hard contact and fly balls to lefty. And the thing with Max Kepler is you're either getting a home run or he's busting. That's just how he's been this season. He's been incredibly tilting, but when he hits a bomb, it's always nice. So I'll have some of him. I'm going to go back to Nelson Cruz. I just think he brings so much upside. And when I'm looking at ownership projections right now, this is going to be a similar spot to the Royals in that these Twins players are all going to be extremely low owned and they give you so much upside. And honestly, I think they're really cheap. You got Jorge Polanco. He's cheap. He's 4.1. Nelson Cruz, 4.6. Eddie Rosario, 4.2. Garver, he still needs to get going. He has not been swinging very well, but one of these times he's absolutely going to, break a slate for you, much like Miguel Sano did at like 0.5% ownership yesterday. So I do have a lot of interest in the Twins today. But that's just, kind of my style. It's definitely boom or bust. The Indian side, I'm not as high on them. I still need to break down their bats just a little bit, but I'm definitely higher on the Twins side in this game.
All right. Sounds good. Next game, we got Pittsburgh versus the Cubs. Mangone, why don't you start with this game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like you look at this game and, Steven Brault, I'll pass on him. No need to go, to him. I know Cool is obviously a guy you could go to instead because he's going to be the replacement. And he can go a little bit, but I think that's probably not the best idea. I'd probably lean Lester as like an interesting cash game option. And the reason why is because if you look at this like overall slate, the pitching is just really bad. But the question is, do I want to spend that money on John Lester at 9K? And I'm leaning no. And the reason why is if you look at the Pirates lineup, they're one team that you can certainly attack. But the problem with the Pirates is they don't strike out as much as you'd think. And on top of that, I'm not saying that, they're a bunch of power bats by any means, but they can get pretty righty heavy and just cause fits for some teams, especially like whenever you have a left-hander out there. So I'm not leaning to Lester. His K prop too is pretty low. It's at like 3.5. So I don't know. He's like my maybe cash game pitcher. Again, this slate is really bad. And that's really it for me in this game. I'm not even looking at the Cubs or the Pirates. So you can move on from me. Just maybe Lester in cash games, but I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, Lester makes some sense. AP, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess so. I gotta, I play on DraftKings primarily. I gotta play two pitchers, and I do agree that John Lester might be one of those guys that just limits damage. He's expensive, which should keep ownership down, and it's John Lester. I never get too excited about him, but if he gives us like 15 to 20. I don't know. That could be, I'll say 15 to 25, 25 being like, if he did that, that would be extremely optimal. But like, I would take 15 from him. Like, that's how gross pitching is on this slate. And I will also say, like, if you're a cash player or you're looking for like daily ROI, you go with Mangone. Okay. If you're a tournament player and you're looking for, you want the takedowns, that's absolutely my approach. If you go with that approach, you got to be fine with losing, 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And it's that fifth day where you're just going to smash. So bankroll management is absolutely key if you play my style. But I do like John Lester. I don't like him. I like him a little bit better than all these other terrible pitchers that are going today. Outside of that, like, I don't like this game. I think this could be one of the games that's kind of boring. I don't play the Twins much. It's like, I feel like they always bust when I play them. And so I got these few teams that I just like that are, good to me, kind of like the Twins. That's always a team that I go back to. The Braves are usually one of them too. But I never seem to have a good read on the Cubs. And so I think this is going to be one of those the spots that I probably limit exposure to unless one of these guys ends up popping off for me. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Clearly, AP likes the Twins. He's a Twins guy. Let's move on, though. San Diego versus Colorado. Travis, Mangone, whatever you want to call yourself, hit on this game.
Yeah. So this game, people are going to be like so tilted from the other day, right? They're going to be so mad because the Padres were bad. And I'll say this, like AP, you're a tournament guy. If you're playing tournaments and you don't want to play one of those sides, like say you think it's like a bad side, and on a slate where the pitching's really bad, I think it's interesting to maybe go one of these pitchers as an idea, right? Just for leverage. It's straight up a whole game theory idea. Again, if you can touch on it when you get there, but I want to get your thoughts on that later on. But ultimately, if you look at this entire game, it's just like stack up for cash. Tatis, you got to love him. Machado is another guy. Like, man, I hope Jerickson Profar is not in the 4-hole so I don't end up playing him again. He has been so bad, but he's so cheap at second base. He always seems like a decent option to get in there. Ultimately, Padres are my favorite side. You need to see what the lineups are because it's a Sunday and there's always some wonky different changes. You might get some value at the top that you're not expecting. So Padres is my favorite side. And on the Rockies side, I don't mind them, but I think, in cash games, I would lean the Padres over the Rockies. AP, I did want to ask you, though, this pitching idea. I thought about saying it yesterday. I was DMing with Mikey, and he was saying he was fading the Padres. And I just wanted to say to him, just go and play the Rockies pitcher then, you know what I mean? And just straight leverage the whole situation. What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And that's kind of what I was saying with the Royals. If you're not playing Dylan Cease, you're not playing him for a reason. And, if he busts, it's for a reason. And the reason is that the Royals probably got to him and hit him. Same goes for Coors. Now, I mean, it's risky, but you got to go in with the mindset if like what you said, Mangone, if he gets shelled, he gets shelled. If Coors goes off, goes off. I'm probably not taking down tournaments. And honestly, it's going to be tougher to take down tournaments if Coors goes off because everyone's stacking it up. You're going to have the absolute, nut stack to take down tournaments. And so what I found is just that it's easier to take down tournaments when Coors busts and when I deviate to go elsewhere. And so I might look at some one-offs in this game. I don't like the pitchers. I was talking with Big T, and I think we do have a pitcher's ump that is on the plate. I mean, maybe Zach Davies, maybe he can limit damage and get us, 10 to 15 points. It's kind of gross, though, especially at Coors. He was average against the Giants. But yeah, I agree with that. Like in tournaments, if you're multi-entering and if you want to get different, like I am today, maybe take a shot on one of these guys. And that's what, so honestly, as it's panning out, I might take a shot on one of the pitchers in the Rays and Orioles game. I might take a shot on John Lester, and then I might take a shot on one of these type of guys and then pair it with the stacks that I talked about that I like. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, if you're playing cash games, you got to have exposure to this. And I like what Mangone said, and going back to the Padres side. I mean, even in tournaments, if I was stacking this game up, I would go heavier the Padres side just because, yeah, you're going to have that bad taste left in your mouth when people are going to this game since they underwhelmed yesterday. So that's kind of how I would attack it. I'm not like full fading Coors. I'll say I'm limiting exposure, and I'm going to prioritize some of these lower owned stacks over Coors today.
All right, makes sense. So the last game was postponed, Milwaukee versus St. Louis. So we obviously don't need to hit on that. So let's just give the people favorite stacks, maybe just your favorite overall stack, and then one lower owned stack. Mangone, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say obviously Coors, I'll say the Padres side is my favorite stack, but my different off the board stack, whatever you want to call it. I'd go to the Braves. I mean, man, David Peterson's not that good, and people won't want to play Freddie Freeman because they see lefty, and who cares? It's Freddie Freeman. He's a great hitter, and on top of that, if David Peterson sucks, he's barely going to be in there, and you get tons of Mets bullpen. Give me the Braves as my lower owned stack.
Awesome. I like it. And guys, real quick, we got 210 people watching, 57 likes. Let's get up to 100. We get up to 100, we're going to give some swag away. All right. So, and I'm in control of the swag. So I don't know if we get up to 150, we'll give out two people some swag. So get on there, hit that thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep pumping out the free content. AP, why don't you hit on your favorite stack?
Yeah, I got to go back to the White Sox against Jacob Junis. I think we're going to see some home runs there. I love the power, and yesterday I was kind of surprised at their ownership. They're higher owned than what I thought they would be. Today, I don't think that's going to be the case. And then, I got to agree. The Braves are one that I like too. So I'm going to have a few Brave stacks, and then I'm going to have my power one-offs and mini stacks from the Twins today. And then my low-owned stack with the Royals as well.
All right, I like it. I like the Braves. I'm with Mangone. I think the Braves are my favorite overall stack from a GPP side. So I'm going to like him. And Freddie Freeman, I love Freddie Freeman today. If I was playing tournaments, even if you didn't want to stack the Braves, like I love Freeman. I think he's really good for tournaments. So I like him. One other thing, guys, let's just give, let's give a home run call. Mangone, we'll start with you. Maybe like your favorite player to go yard, and then like someone under the radar.
Yeah, I'll take Tatis, and I'll go to the guy we just keep stroking, man. Freddie Freeman. Like, Freddie Freeman hits one out. I'll go with him as my guy to take it yard.
Love it. AP, what about you?
I'm going to go back to Luis Robert. I think he goes back-to-back and gets us another home run today.
Oh, I love that one too. Both good calls. I was going to go with the Freeman, but I like the Roberts call too. But guys, we've pretty much hit on MLB. Let's bring it over to the association, to the NBA. Let's talk some basketball. We're going to start off with this Washington versus Brooklyn game. Man, this game is going to be really interesting. And I say it because this is like one of those games where both teams are terrible, but you've seen them play. You kind of know who's playing. They're all pretty much cheap outside of Karis LeVert. Like everyone's like mid-range or cheap besides Karis LeVert in this game, and Rui on DK is expensive as well. But other than that, like this is such an easy game to stack. What are we doing, Mangone? I assume in cash, this game's going to be very popular, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to want to be playing guys in this game in cash games. If you have just absolutely none, that's probably a problem. So you should probably have exposure to this game in cash games. And I would say Jared Allen's one. The price is just too cheap. Obviously, it didn't get adjusted because of the last game. But we saw what DeAndre Ayton did, right? We saw how he just feasted on him. I expect Jared Allen to be able to feast on him as well. So Jared Allen is a guy that I like a ton. I'm pretty sure you like him too, JSU. So that has me excited. Whenever I'm aligned on a play like you are, I always am feeling pretty good about it. So, yeah, like Jared Allen. Karis LeVert's in a great spot too. I wouldn't worry about him as much in this game as the Magic game. And one of my fears with LeVert in the Magic game was just getting double teamed. And he got double teamed a ton, and it was a problem. But I'm not worried about the Wizards being able to, pull off really great double teams. I think this game's going to be sloppy. I think it's going to be up and down the floor. Magic play at a slow pace where there's more half-court, offenses being ran. So, yeah, ultimately, I think LeVert's a good play. I think Jared Allen's a good play. I don't mind going back to even Chris Chiozza. He was playing great basketball before the break. And even a Tyler Johnson isn't a terrible punt option. It seemed like he was going to get decent run based on the way the rotations were going. So those would probably be my four guys I'm kind of looking at overall on the Nets side. And on the Wizards side, there's a lot to like. But one thing I'll say is, there's not a world where we got Ish Smith, Shabazz Napier, Troy Brown, all just going insane together. I think that some of these guys are going to cut into each other. I think that's something you have to make sure to watch. So that's one thing I'd be monitoring. Thomas Bryant's one of those guys who's popping in models a ton. I like him as well. But I really think Troy Brown is the guy who's going to get the biggest bounce back because he got those 3 fouls early on. And I could see his usage being up and him taking away from some of those other guys. Not saying I don't like, the Ish Smiths, the Shabazz Napiers of the world, but I do think Troy Brown's going to see a little bit more usage and steal it from some of the guys. So just be careful with that.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say, just to touch on Karis LeVert, I mean, you hit it on the head. So the first half, they pretty much played him straight up, and Karis LeVert just kind of did what he wanted. He was in control of the whole offense. He was getting Jared Allen involved. And this is why Jared Allen busted in the second half. They started blitzing Karis LeVert whenever he caught the ball. He would catch the ball, and then immediately, right when he'd start to dribble, someone else would come over, and they'd pretty much just force the ball out of his hands. And when he does that, he can't get the offense set up. So Jared Allen is just he's nothing now. All he is a rebounder because mainly the pick and roll, how he gets the ball in the paint. It's from Karis LeVert, getting into the paint, forcing them to come at him, and then he dishes to Jared Allen or in the pick and roll. And if you're getting blitzed, you got to get rid of the ball fast. And then Jared Allen's stuck at the free throw line with the ball as opposed to at the rim if he's getting a normal pick and roll. So it definitely made Jared Allen, because he was going off in the first half. That's why he stopped going off in the second half. It was because they started blitzing Karis LeVert. I don't think the Wizards have the capability to do that, like Mangone said. So I'm not as worried about that. But AP, why don't you touch on this game?
Yeah, you guys, spelled it out perfectly. I think so. I think when you look at this game on paper, you got two fast-paced teams. You got a high total. We should see very little defense. So on paper, it's a fantastic game to target. I will say the Nets rolled out 13 players. Part of that was due to the game kind of getting out of hand in the fourth. But I still think like the one main risk here is rotations. But so what I'm saying is I wouldn't get cute. I would stick to the quality plays that you guys already talked about. On the Nets side, that's Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, who, the Magic are a completely different team defensively than the Wizards. The Wizards are absolutely terrible on defense. And I think Karis LeVert and Allen are fantastic plays. The problem is with LeVert in this mid-tier or this upper mid-tier range is absolutely stacked today. So you got some tough decisions to be made for sure. And then on the Wizards side, they rolled out, I want to say, I think it was like 11 or 12 players as well. 11-man rotation is what it was. And so that's the other issue. And we saw them there, if one guy got 2 fouls, they pulled them real quick. They were just very stingy when a player was in foul trouble. And so that's another risk. And so I'm picking and choosing my spots carefully in this game. I love Thomas Bryant. I think I'm going to go back to Troy Brown. I think Shabazz Napier in tournaments only, but this backcourt is kind of tricky. I think these guys could see, 26 to 29 minutes, and they could just rotate them in. And so that's on this slate. I think that presents kind of a risk. And so I don't want to get too cute. And so I'm going to keep it Thomas Bryant, and then on the Nets side, Jared Allen and Karis LeVert. I think beyond that, like Rui Hachimura, 7.4K. I don't know if I can spend up to him just when there's many other good spots on the slate. So I think it's a great game to attack. I think you just got to pick and choose your spots.
Yeah, I will say Rui on DK is a no-go for me. On FanDuel at 6,100, though, I'll play some Rui on FanDuel for sure. So that's where I'll get my taste of him. But I agree, on the Wizards side, one thing I will say is specifically Jerome Robinson. Everyone's going to see that 31 or 32 minutes. And they're going to say, wow, he played more than Troy Brown. Well, Troy Brown got the hook, like AP said early, when he got 2 fouls early. They just pulled him right out. Robinson came in, I'm pretty sure. And so I think those minutes will be swapped. So I think if Troy Brown's not in foul trouble and there's no foul trouble, I think Troy Brown sees the 32 minutes and Robinson probably sees the 25 to 26 minutes. Robinson's still okay. If you want to take a shot on him in a GPP, I don't mind that. But I do not think he sees 30 plus minutes unless there's foul trouble. But again, I like Ish again, 3,800. I liked them out last time. Again, they just pretty much split Shabazz and Ish. They split them up. They get about 24 to 27 minutes each. So, it's just who you like. And if I'm getting the savings with Ish still, I'm just going to keep going back to Ish, unless he becomes super popular. But we'll see about that. Let's move on, though, guys. Portland versus Boston. Next game up. Talk about the Celtics. I thought it was interesting, from the Celtics side. First of all, Kemba Walker only played I think it was 16 to 20 minutes, 19 minutes it was. So he didn't play that much, but everyone else kind of played, I would say, somewhat their normal minutes, 32 minutes or so. Gordon Hayward looked really good. So, Mangone, why don't you start off with this game? Talk about this game a little bit.
Yeah, so you mentioned Kemba Walker, and the one thing I want to mention on FanDuel, he's 5.4K. They really aggressively priced him down, so we need to figure out how many minutes he's playing and really adjust to that. I will say there was a tweet that I had on Kemba Walker, and I'm trying to find it now, but Brad Stevens basically said he's going to gradually increase his minutes. So I don't know the exact number, but that's obviously important to watch for a site like FanDuel. I do worry, though, that the Boston just seems like, honestly, a little bit with the with the Blazers, it just feels like they have like, too many cooks in the kitchen on both sides. Like there's just too many guys soaking up each other's usage. And on this slate, I'm just not in love with this game. Jason Tatum too, I'm worried about him. He seems like he does not want to be in the bubble. I listened to his interview and he was like, before the games had started, he's like, man, I just want the games to start. Like he just seemed like he doesn't want to be there. And then he shot horrible the next day. So I'm not super excited about any of these Celtics. The price tags aren't that enticing too. So the only one I'll talk about is Kemba Walker at FanDuel, 5.4K. I want to just figure out the minutes and then make a decision based on that. And on the Portland side, like, listen, JSU, you crushed it with the Nurkic call. I'll let you talk about him. I liked him in tournaments. I had a little bit, but obviously not enough. And Nurkic, I get it. He could do great again. I worry though about the guards like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, because the Celtics seem like that they could D them up pretty well. I mean, they have the defenders that can do that. I just don't know what to do with the Portland side that much. So I'll yield to you guys and hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I will say from the Boston side real quick, I just want to hit on. So Jason Tatum, it's interesting. At least it was encouraging that he was shooting a ton, which is encouraging, but he did not look right. I will say, the Portland bigs, if they run out the Nurkic Whiteside lineup at any point in this game, because remember, Whiteside was in foul trouble, so we don't really know how much they actually wanted to use that lineup. But Boston is like, they're the opposite of this Portland team. They're going to run out 4 guys who are pretty much like perimeter guys like Tatum, Hayward, Brown with Smart or Kemba. So this will be an interesting mix of styles because it's totally different on the Portland side. And then Daniel Theis, I think if you want to talk about one guy that's kind of interesting on a slate where we have a lot of centers, especially in the first game, that are going to soak up some ownership, Thomas Bryant, Jared Allen, specifically. I think Daniel Theis is a really interesting pivot at 5,100 on DraftKings. I think he's 5,200 or 5,300 on FanDuel at the power forward position. They're going to need him to play big minutes because this Portland team is real big. They bring in Whiteside. Theis played 32 minutes in the last game against Milwaukee. So I would expect him to play at least 32 minutes again today. And I think at 5,100, I mean, he might see more minutes if they're rolling out that, Nurkic and Whiteside pretty much playing the whole game. So I think he's interesting. But AP, talk about this game.
Yeah, like if this game was played yesterday, I would think it was, one of the better games to target. We just have so many elite games, and the one we just discussed. We got the Bucks, Rockets, Mavs, Suns, Spurs, Grizzlies. But I mean, this game is there, we could see some guys go off here. Attacking the Blazers is something that I've done all season. They still don't play defense. They play at a high pace. We saw let's see. Oh yeah, they played. Okay, they played the Memphis. Yeah, we saw Jaron Jackson go off against them, and we were really high on him the other day. I think Jason Tatum was kind of in that similar spot, and I think he was 2 for 18 in his last game, and so that's going to leave a sour taste in everyone's mouth. If I play, so I don't typically play Boston guys either. I typically just avoid it, and I probably will do that today just because I like other spots better. But if I had to play someone on the Boston side, it would probably be Tatum. Like, you have to love this matchup. He was showing massive upside towards the end of the season before things were paused. I mean, this guy was, he was putting up 50-plus DK points night in and night out. And so I might talk myself into playing him, but overall, I just like to avoid the Boston side of things. They're just, you get kind of a very solid rotation there, but at the same time, they all just tend to limit each other's upside, is what I've seen. I think the Theis call is pretty interesting. We saw in the Memphis game, I think we saw Jonas get into foul trouble, so that would be my only concern with him. But they're going to need big bodies in there. So I definitely agree with your call there, JSU. On the Blazers side, again, I don't like attacking the Celtics, but if this game stays competitive, it could be one that's really interesting in tournaments. We saw the Blazers run an 8-man rotation, I believe. And so, Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum saw massive minutes. I think they were both like at 39 or 40 minutes, not including overtime. And they obviously got all the OT minutes as well. So I don't know. I don't know if I can play with all the other studs on the slate. I can't play Dame Lillard at 9.5K when we have a few other options that I just think are absolute smash spots. Same with CJ McCollum. I mean, he smashed last game. Was that an outlier? I don't know. The Celtics are much better at defending the perimeter. And so I don't know if I'll play him. Nurkic, interesting again, but I don't know if I want to attack Feast down in the paint. So for me, I'm probably I don't hate this game, but I'll probably find myself limiting exposure to it. I think, the popular value play is probably going to be Zach Collins again. He played heavy minutes. And I don't hate that play at all. I feel like he kind of almost had a floor game last game as well. So for me, it's probably Zach Collins and then maybe Jason Tatum.
All right. Now I'm going to give probably an unpopular take, and people are probably going to disregard it and say it's a crazy take. But so one thing from the Portland side, because I really didn't touch on it, because I'm kind of with you guys. I don't really love attacking this Boston team with a lot of these guys. Like Yusuf Nurkic, I love him. I think he's a great player, but 7,700 now, getting up there in price. And the Celtics are gonna, they're gonna make it tough. They're a solid team defensively. And then, CJ, is CJ a good play? I mean, it's a tough matchup, but I mean, CJ playing 39 minutes. The Portland guys literally said, like, Lillard and CJ, we'll play as many minutes as we need to get in, because they pretty much need to win a bunch of these games to get in over Memphis. So, I think they're going to play a ton of minutes. I just don't know if I want to pay for CJ when you get Karis LeVert, Chris Middleton, kind of in that same range of price. But the one guy who shows value on this team outside of Zach Collins at 3,400, obviously, because that's obvious, in tournaments would be Hassan Whiteside. And yes, I was on Nurkic last time. I do think Nurkic is a better player. But now roles are reversed. Nurkic was 5,900 last slate and Whiteside was, I think, 8K. Now Nurkic is 7,700 and Whiteside is 5,300. There is tremendous value on Hassan Whiteside at $5,300. We don't know how many minutes they actually wanted to play him because he was in foul trouble literally the entire game, pretty much. And then Nurkic was just rolling, so they just kept letting Nurkic go, obviously. But I would assume they would at least want Whiteside out there for 22 to 25 minutes, because they don't want to roll Nurkic out, coming back for 33 minutes or whatever he got. I think 28 to 30 for Nurkic is what you're looking at. But Whiteside is a guy, he's going to see Cantor, even if it's 10 minutes of Cantor. That's 10 minutes of Whiteside against Cantor with the second unit, and he will eat up Cantor with the second unit of Boston. And I would assume Cantor sees a little more time. But if he doesn't, then it brings Grant Williams, Semi Ojeleye. These are the guys in the second unit for Boston. So the Whiteside to me is a perfect tournament pivot off of a guy like Jared Allen, Thomas Bryant. If you think in a real interesting pivot would be, instead of playing Jared Allen and Thomas Bryant, to play Feast and Whiteside in your center and utility spot. I think a lot of people are going to play Thomas Bryant and Jared Allen together. And I think an interesting pivot would be playing Whiteside and Feast together in tournaments. And you'll definitely see at least one of my 3 or 4 teams that I have, main teams, will have a Whiteside and probably Feast combo, just to kind of pivot in case that game does fall. But that's my take. I mean, it's probably an unpopular one, but Mangone, what do you think?
I mean, people in the chat like it, and I think you're right, just the upside that's there. I mean, it's definitely there, and if he can kind of get rolling, sure, they're obviously going to keep going to him. So I don't hate it. I think it's perfectly fine if you want to go that route.
Yeah, AP, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't listen to you last time, and Nurkic absolutely smashed. So I like it. Where my mind goes is we have 2 guys in Thomas Bryant and Jared Allen that are in the same price range, that are far more predictable. We know what their workload is going to be. And so, whereas I'm really contrarian with MLB, I'm not as contrarian with NBA, because most of these spots I feel like are somewhat predictable to some standpoint, far more predictable than MLB. But I do get what you're saying, and I do like Whiteside. He has a phenomenal point per minute rate when he is going off, and so I think it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, like for anyone who's kind of like AP, maybe you play Jared Allen with Whiteside or Thomas Bryant with Whiteside. You don't have to be super contrarian, but I mean, if you're in that $20, 100,000 people in it, and you want to be really different, I mean, that's going to get there. So I'm done with this game. Let's move on. But San Antonio, Memphis, this is a really intriguing game to me. I think this game could be the sneaky kind of game stack that maybe goes under the radar, with the two later games and the first game being very popular, in my opinion, because you got all the studs in the two later games and you got all the value in the first game. But this game, you're not paying more than like 7,800 to 7,300 probably for the best players on the team. And they've got some value pieces and some mid-range pieces, which makes it really easy to stack for me. Mangone, why don't you start off and talk about this game?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the Memphis side first. And I mean, obviously, John Morant, you saw the minutes he got. They were definitely increased. There was a report that came out, too, that said we're going to push him a little more. So, Ja's a really good value here. I like him still. I think he's a guy, if you want to get in the mid-tier. John Morant's a really good play. Also, Jaron Jackson, again, like I think going back to the well on him and Brandon Clark isn't bad. But I would worry about Brandon Clark a little bit. The usage was very low. It was at 13.2%. And yeah, I like him, but I do worry that maybe he just shot the lights out a bit. And even with Jaron Jackson, too, like don't expect 40 fantasy points like guaranteed again. We tend to think that sometimes with some value plays. I think they're both still pretty strong options. I do also want to mention Jonas Valenciunis. He played 14 minutes, right? Which, is not, encouraging. And that can eat into Jaron Jackson and Brandon Clark's time if he does get run. And when Jonas Valenciunis was out on the floor, he had a 29.2% usage rate, and he averaged 1.53 fantasy points. Again, small sample size, but that's just what we saw. I could see Valanciunas being a really contrarian spend-up tournament option that could kind of leverage off of guys like Jaron Jackson and Clark as cheap guys. So John Morant in tournaments for me would be a guy I would look to, or in cash games and tournaments. And then I think Jonas is intriguing, and then those other two guys as values. We'll head to the Spurs real quick. And one thing I want to mention with the Spurs is Marco Bellinelli. He is doubtful for the game, and Bellinelli played 14 minutes. So this Spurs team, if you look at them, there's a lot of opportunity here. I get they jacked up the prices a little bit on Derek White and DeJounte Murray, but those two I think are still in play. I really like them more on FanDuel. I think those price tags are really encouraging. And then if you look at the situation, this guy, Keldon Johnson, played 30 minutes and he's 3K. I'm not saying this guy's amazing, but I think he could, get up some type of production at that price. It is intriguing. And another cheap guy is Lonnie Walker. I think he's one of the safest value plays. I like him a ton. And ultimately, Marco Bellinelli is 15 minutes. I think they get distributed to DeJounte Murray and maybe a little Eubanks or Weatherspoon. But all in all, I think it's Derek White, DeJounte Murray, two strong plays in that game. DeRozan's an interesting spend up, but I don't love him. I like other spend up options. And then Lonnie Walker's a great value, and don't mind a Keldon Johnson pivot value play.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I think on FanDuel specifically that people aren't going to do, which I think is stack both DeJounte and Derek White in the same lineup. They're both cheap enough. And remember, DeJounte Murray was in foul trouble. Another guy. He gets in foul trouble sometimes, but that last game, he was in foul trouble almost the entire game. He saw 21 minutes. I think that's why you saw Keldon Johnson see 30 minutes. They still like him. Keldon Johnson's going to play. But if DeJounte Murray is not in foul trouble, I really think he sees 28 to 32 minutes. He's one of the better defenders they have, so they're going to want him on Ja. So I think him and Derek White together, and then maybe you pair it with Jakob Podol or whatever his name is at center for cheap. If you're doing a stack of this team, that'd be the kind of route I would look to if I was pairing both those guys together. If I was pairing one of them, then I'd probably go to a Lonnie Walker or a Podol or something like that. But I do like the combo, especially on FanDuel at their cheap price tags. AP, why don't you talk about this game, though?
Yeah, this again, it's, I mean, on paper, what I talk about, like it's one that looks really good. I mean, We should see a solid pace. We have a high total. My issue comes down to rotations. I feel like, I locked in Jaron Jackson last game, and he smashed, and it paid off. Now this just feels like a matchup where I could absolutely see him tilting us. I mean, we've seen it all season with both sides of these teams. We all know Pop can get, if one of these guys gets into foul trouble or does something that Pop doesn't like, he can pull them, and we could all get tilted by like a 28, 30-minute Patty Mills type of game. And so I would say like that is probably part of my concern. I think you hit it well with DeJounte Murray. He's interesting. Like if you were worried about his minutes last game, it was foul trouble. And that's why, if you're high on Derek White, I would, use a little bit of caution. He got a lot of extra usage and minutes with the ball flowing through him with Murray on the bench. So I like Lonnie Walker. I do agree with both of you guys. I think he's the safest play here. I think Podol, I don't know if I want to. I think I like the other center plays in the first game that we talked about more. They have far more upside than him, especially in a matchup that is quite difficult. And so I don't know. I'll probably move off of that. I'll have Lonnie Walker exposure. I hate going heavy on the Spurs. I just don't like to do it. It's kind of like Boston, even if the game looks really good. So I'm not going to be heavy on them. And then the same on the Grizzlies side. I feel like if they get down a little bit, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them mix up their rotations, which could, present some risks. On the flip side, we've been streaming opposing guards against this Spurs team all season. And so I do have some interest in Ja Morant, and he played heavy minutes last game. So they're not afraid to play him bigger minutes. So I'd say Morant probably is my favorite play on that side. But again, that range is stacked. And so I don't know if I have him overall as my favorite play, but I definitely have interest in him. And then I kind of want to limit exposure here, even though I think it's a good game. I just want to pivot off some of these guys because I think we could have some higher upside, better plays in the last two games of the night.
Yeah. So I do think that if you're looking for a game to stack in large field tournaments, I think this is definitely a game to stack because what I talked about, I think it was the first or second day of the NBA slates. I wrote it in the strategy piece we have over at Run Pure Sports. It's like the fear of the unknown. And when AP talks about the rotations, this is like the fear that a lot of people have in tournaments is we don't really know. And a lot of people like to know exactly what their guy's doing. And really the Spurs, you don't know. Like Pop could get mad at any one of his guys. It could be the star. It could be DeRozan. It could be anyone and just pull him. And you won't see him for the rest of the half. That's the kind of coach Pop is. But again, that makes people a little timid to stack up the Spurs in a tournament. And I think in a tournament, if you want a lower owned stack, I think the Spurs and the Memphis side are both pretty solid stack options. So that's my take on it. But let's move on. We got Sacramento versus Orlando. So this is one of those games where I don't really love much. I think that it's a little slower paced. I think that one guy, if you wanted to look at a bounce back, would be Rashaan Holmes. A lot of people played Rashaan Holmes last time out and kind of disappointed. He was very cheap. He gets a price bump on FanDuel. So now I think he's 5,200. So maybe a lot of people after that performance last game won't play him. I'm going to go back to him. He does get, he has to guard Vucevic, obviously on the defensive end, and he's prone to fouls, which is another thing that scares me. But he can easily get there on the offensive end because Vooch isn't a great defender. So outside of that, though, I don't know how much I'll have of this game. But AP, why don't you start off with this game?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you threw it my way. This game's a full fade for me. I don't have anything to break down. I'm not playing a single player from this game. I think it's by far the worst game on the slate. And I try to be as transparent as possible. I'm not going to try to guess what the Kings rotation and what Luke Walton is going to do. Easy fade for me. And then the Magic side, the same thing. I just, for me, this is a full fade. I think there's too many other really good spots on the slate. Even tournaments. It's just like, if I was running 150, I honestly think I would just like X out everyone. But that's how I'm taking this game for sure.
All right. Sounds good, Mangone. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's a 6-game slate. Obviously, this is the least favorite game of the slate. But what if I told you there's a guy in this game that had a 41% usage rate? I mean, you got to like think about it, I'd say, in the last game. And again, I don't want to overreact on small samples or anything like that, but his name's De'Aaron Fox, and he's pretty good at basketball. So I think he's enticing. Again, I wouldn't be stacking up this game. But I think De'Aaron Fox, I think his minutes are safe. If you want to look at him, I wouldn't hate it. The Rashaan Holmes thing, I don't mind going back to as well. And then the one thing I'll mention too, I think Aaron Gordon, it's not one of those plays that'll pop in projections. It's not one of those plays that looks so sexy. But if you look, he was at 26 minutes last game. Same with Vucevic. So they were on point for the same minutes. You would assume that Aaron Gordon would have gotten to the 30s. And he kind of fits this Sacramento Kings up and down the floor game style, right? Let's say it kind of speeds up a bit. I think Aaron Gordon could be intriguing. So listen, I'm a one lineup guy. I won't have any of these guys, but let's say you're a big like multi-entry guy. I wouldn't mind making a group of like, let's say you're playing 10% De'Aaron Fox, maybe get like 5% of Aaron Gordon in there. And then like the other 5% is Vucevic. Because I think if like Fox has a big game, you could see this game maybe get a little faster, and that way those Magic guys then get involved more. And that's kind of how I would approach it. But I will not don't think I'll have any of these guys in my cash games. Maybe Rashaan Holmes, he'll slip in because power forward is pretty gross on FanDuel. But all in all, this is not the best game on the slate.
Yeah, I agree with you. Fox would be, I guess, the only one I'd be interested maybe to spend up for, but I'm probably not going to do it on this slate. He was very aggressive last game. He did most of the work for that team. So I can't argue with anyone that wants to play him, but I'm probably not going to have any of him, even in the 150. I think the only guy that I'm going to have some of is Rashaan Holmes. Because like I said, I think he's the only one with a decent matchup, and he has the upside. That like we've seen him put up 40 before. He can put up 40 fantasy points for sure. And this is actually a matchup, against Vooch. Again, like I said, not a good defender. But let's move. Yeah.
One last thing, JSU. So Steve Anthony mentioned in the chat, Fournier got a good game last time. And one of the reasons he had the highest, he had the highest usage of the entire team. And I think that's because he's pulling away from Fultz a little bit. I'm sure Fultz, he's not super conditioned. I don't remember because I didn't watch the game close enough. But my assumption is maybe Fournier is running a little bit more point guard on that second unit situation. But that's all I really got there.
I mean, I'll tell you what happened is Fournier was on fire, especially like at the end of that game when they were pushing away. He was just hitting everything. Yeah, he took 15 shots in 25 minutes. That's a lot in 25 minutes. But think about it though. He had 24 points. He had 5 assists, 1 block, 1 rebound. The problem with Fournier is he a lot of times he doesn't do more than score. And at the price range he's at, if you were to tell me he's 5,200, 5,100, I'd take a look at him. But when he's right next to DeJounte Murray and Derek White, I think there's much more upside with DeJounte Murray and Derek White because they do more than just score. They get assists, they get rebounds, they can get steals, blocks. So like they do a little of everything. So I much rather them. I think they have more upside than a Fournier. But I mean, I don't mind if you want to go there. But he just went nuts. So I'm probably not going to have any. But can't argue with anyone if they want to. So let's move it to the next game, which I think is going to be very popular. Houston versus Milwaukee. We all saw what Harden did, the first game. I mean, the guy is just amazing. He's an amazing scorer. We all know this. He gets a really tough matchup against Milwaukee. One thing with Milwaukee, you're going to see, obviously they're a very good defensive team. The one thing they do is they give up a lot of 3-pointers. Why? Because they pack the paint in. They don't allow drivers to get into the lane, like to get to the rim. They really stop people from getting to the rim. I don't like Westbrook in this matchup. I think it's a really bad matchup for him just because what is Westbrook's best or his strength is getting into the paint, getting to the rim, attacking the basket. it's going to be really hard against, Giannis and Lopez and, that defense. I think they're going to stop him from getting to the rim. They're going to give up the 3-pointer though. So Harden makes a lot of sense. But again, it's still a tough matchup. AP, why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. This game is going to be phenomenal. The best game to watch by far. We're going to see a ton of points. And I was saying in chat earlier, like, I think the total was at like 239 or 240, and it's not enough. I'm already seeing it climb. I think we're going to see a ton of points scored here. And you made a really good point that here's what I think Coach Bud's going to do. I think he's going to do everything that he can to stop Harden, and he's going to force the ball to Westbrook. And so if the Rockets want to win this game, I think it's going to be on the hands of Daniel House and Robert Covington knocking down threes. So here's how I see this game, and I want to play it. There's absolutely no way the Rockets are going to stop Giannis. I was on, we saw what Porzingis did, and now we got, Giannis, who's similar size, but height wise, but just an absolute monster who is going to be barreling his way down into the paint, and I don't know how they're going to stop him. So I love the idea of locking in Giannis as a stud here. And honestly, I'm probably going to reduce exposure to Harden and Westbrook, not full fade, because I like this game. But I think the way to stack this game is Giannis plus peripheral pieces from this game. Because like you said, the ball is going to be forced out of Harden's hands. Westbrook's going to be forced to shoot or drive to the paint. And we're going to see kickouts to Daniel House, Robert Covington. That's how I see this game going. I think it's going to be a close game. Tough matchup for the Rockets to win, but I don't see how Giannis doesn't smash. I know he's going to be popular, but he's a guy I want to get overweight on. I just think his floor and ceiling combination. I think ceiling wise, he could break the slate. I think floor is phenomenal. And so that's how I see this game going. I think Chris Middleton is also a nice piece at 7.8K. There's a lot of guys in that range though. So if I'm full game stacking, which I rarely like full game stack, usually it's 3 or 4 players from one team. I could see Giannis and Chris Middleton, but honestly, I might pivot off of Middleton and get someone else in that 7K range that we talked about. But Giannis for sure. I actually like Russ a little bit, but I like the peripheral pieces on the Rockets side. I think the difference maker is going to be the Covingtons and the Daniel House.
Yeah, interesting. So one thing I'm going to push back on you on is I love Chris Middleton today. I'm not going to argue the take about Giannis being the number one play at the top because I agree with you there. But I love Chris Middleton. I think these two guys absolutely tear up this team. Like Chris Middleton. Giannis is going to do what he wants, but they're going to slide in and they're going to.
Giannis is not going to win us a tournament tonight. Giannis is going to. Hopefully, Giannis doesn't show up.
I'll call it whatever. I'm going to call him Matakumbo now. That's all I'm going to do is call him Matakumbo.
There we go. No, I love it. I agree with you. Middleton. he seems really safe. So I like that pushback.
Think about it though, like they're not gonna try. Like the goal for the Rockets is gonna be on the opposite side on defense. Is we got to slide in, we got to take charges, we got to make sure when he tries to drive into the paint, we all collapse. So Middleton's gonna get a ton of wide open shots. I think DiVincenzo's even interesting if you want to go there. Brook Lopez will get some open threes. Like I really think that this game, like you want Middleton. Like Middleton to me. Especially on FanDuel at 6,900 on FanDuel, that's way too cheap. I'm going to have a ton of I'm probably locking him in over there on FanDuel for sure at 6,900.
I got to say, I'm not full fading Harden. Like Harden is putting this team on his back right now. He looked incredible. I'm just saying, when I look at the game flow, I think it makes sense. I know Coach Bud is going to try to take him out of the game, which is very hard to do. It's James Harden. It's just when I stack it up, that's how I envision kind of an optimal way to play this game would be with his Giannis. But I'm definitely going to have Harden in tournaments as well.
Yeah, but you're going to fade Giannis, right?
Yeah, Giannis. Yeah.
Fading Giannis. All right, everyone fade Giannis, I guess. Mangone, let's kick it to you. I know you're going to fade Giannis, but what are you thinking about this game?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys talked about that game for so long. I actually just updated my baseball core play. So if you playing the MLB, head on over and check it out. I just did it though, so it might take 5 minutes to update. So maybe give it a little time. Let me talk about this and then go check it out. But yeah, no, I'm not fading Giannis. Listen, he's a regular season warrior. That's where he thrives. That's where he wins. That's where he showboats. So yeah, I think Giannis makes sense. And one thing I want to mention, I was talking with the Keg guys, and they were right. Do you guys remember Harden took some stabs at Giannis in February? Is this their first game since that game? Both these stars are going to go nuts, right? They were basically talking trash. Harden said, the guy can't shoot. And I mean, I love that narrative. It's fun to talk about. But Giannis is definitely going to show up and have a big game. Like him a ton. I think he's a great spend-up option. I think you guys are right about Middleton. Good play. When there's no Bledsoe, you play Middleton. When there's no Middleton, you play Bledsoe. It's very simple. You can do that. Not saying that Middleton's a cash lock by any means, but he's a good play. Don't know if I'll for sure make the optimal lineup. I prefer Levert to Middleton at the same exact price if you force me to pick. And then Brook Lopez has been really good. I worry he could get ran off the court in this game. That's one of my fears, but I think he can still be decent at that price and an interesting pivot. And then George Hill is really cheap at 3.9K. And he got a good amount of minutes. I mean, he had 27 minutes in the last game he played, and he kind of fits this game style a bit. So I think George Hill could be this random guy out of nowhere. Sure, he's not going to have a 45-point game, but he could be an interesting last guy in your cash games. I wouldn't hate it, but I think there's better guys for value personally. Rocket side, Harden, he's probably the guy, you want to be getting in there. I don't mind Westbrook as much as you guys said. I know they're playing it a little different. So the floor is going to be more space, and there's some confusion that can go on. So I don't mind Westbrook, but I'm definitely team Harden over Westbrook, no doubt in my mind. And then Daniel House is too cheap still. Like him, I think he's perfectly fine. And Robert Covington on FanDuel specifically, not a bad price tag at 5.9K. Don't like it on DK at 6.4. And yeah, I think that's basically it. I mean, this is a game to just, load up on the stars, mix in some other guys and just, collect some money.
That's what I like to do. I like to collect some money. So that's the goal anyways. But yeah, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. Definitely Harden's going to come out. And I mean, I think he shows up. It's just, I don't know if he gets 85 again or 88 or whatever he got last game. I think that he's not going there, but still he could easily do well in this matchup. But let's move on. We got one more game to talk about. Dallas versus Phoenix. Dallas, last time out against Houston, was obviously the tournament winner with Porzingis. Porzingis was definitely key if you were taking down the tournament, that first slate with them. But I mean, they got Luka. I mean, it's just those two guys are the main guys, and then mainly it's after that, it's like the afterthoughts. Tim Hardaway Jr. is okay, but like really and truly from the Dallas side, you want one of those two studs. And then from Phoenix, again, I think it's like you got the two main guys in Booker and Ayton, and then you got kind of the afterthoughts. You get Rubio, but they kind of limited Rubio's minutes. He only saw like 29 minutes. Didn't love that, but I mean, he could still get there, I guess, with that many minutes. But I like him when he's getting like the 34, 35 minutes. Booker, they still ran 36 minutes, so I'm not really worried about him. Ayton still got his minutes. But then you got the guys like, Bridges and Johnson, who both started. Saric came off the bench, so we'll have to see on that. I think they said something about him not being ready to start or play big minutes. So we'll have to see what happens with him. But Mangone, why don't you start with this game first? Talk about what you like.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is when I saw this line at like -5.5, that was a little surprising. I mean, this Suns team, sure, like they have some talent, but I think the Mavericks are way better. Luka, he's 10.8K, and a decision to be made is like Luka, Giannis, or Harden, right? Like that's kind of the big decision. And when you're kind of building your lineups, there is merit, I think, to going Luka over Harden because he can be a forward, right? Obviously, on DraftKings, position doesn't matter, but that is a case to be made when you're kind of building out lineups. But I currently rank them Giannis, or as JC likes to say, Giannis. I go to Harden as 2, and then I go to Luka as 3. Not that I don't like Luka. I think he's a pretty good play. Can easily destroy here against the Suns. I think he ran pretty bad too. He shot like 1 for 9 from 3 last game. But He's a good play. Porzingis, I'm not in love with. The price tag at 9K is too much, and he's going to be going up against a guy like Ayton, who, I'm not saying Ayton's going to give him problems or anything, but just the length could be issues. And there's other spots I just like to spend my money. Just not the day for Porzingis. There's other ways I'd rather go. I don't know if it's going to be a Trey Burke game again. Probably not. He shot lights out. He really ate into Seth Curry, where I think Seth Curry could be an interesting tournament play because all those minutes that went to Trey Burke, they were supposed to go to Seth Curry. So if Seth Curry gets hot, he's just going to eat up all those minutes and absolutely crush. But that's really it for Dallas. I'm not in love with this side. We can go over to the Suns. And I just don't know what to do here. And it's not that I don't like these players, but 7.2K for Rubio. Like, just give me Ja Morant instead at 7.3. Devin Booker at 8.6K. I'll take some other guys. I'll go down to some cheaper guards that I prefer. DeAndre Ayton at 8.5K. Like, I like the cheaper centers. I don't need to be going to Ayton here. I'd rather go to a Vucevic at 8.7 over Ayton. So this game is just really not fitting it for me. I guess Luka, and then that's it. Not really in love with this one.
All right, Mangone doesn't like it. AP, do you agree or do you have a different take?
Yeah, I like this game quite a bit. I do agree with Mangone that I was surprised by the total. I think Dallas could pull away, but I don't think it's going to be like a blowout to where like what we saw yesterday with the Clippers, where the guys just aren't even playing in the second half. I feel like Luka and Porzingis are going to get enough done early. And I feel like he'll stay competitive enough, but I do think that the Mavericks win in a pretty, convincing manner. So I like Luka here on the Mavericks side. I think he's extremely safe at his price range. I haven't done any builds yet. I want to see if I compare Giannis and Luka. I want to see what my lineups look like. Again, Porzingis is going to be really low owned. You got to like this matchup. I think he'll be a really contrarian play. He's playing really good right now. 9K feels like a little bit much to pay for him in this matchup, especially if I'm prioritizing Luka. The one thing I'll also say is I was kind of hoping that people would look at Trey Burke and go back to him. What a game he had. What happened there was, that game went small and Trey Burke was on fire. You got to think with the size that the Suns have that we'll see more Maxi Kleber against Ayton down in the paint, so that Porzingis could play the 4. That's kind of how I see it going. We'll wait and see, but I definitely like the Mavericks side. I don't like the peripheral pieces as much, so I'll probably limit. Like, I'm not going to play Seth Curry. I'm not going to play THJ. I have a little bit of interest in Finney Smith just in tournaments. But I think there's other value pieces that are better. Now, if you think that the Suns can keep it close, I think what you got to do is stack it with a guy like Devin Booker. Booker's a guy that can absolutely break a slate. And we saw what Harden did to this team. Now, I don't know. I do agree with Mangone in that I think the Mavericks pull away and win this pretty easily. But if it stays close, it's going to be at the hands of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton down in the paint. So me prioritizing Luka, I think he's a smash play. I have him just behind Giannis. And if I'm stacking it, I want to run it back with Devin Booker. And if I want to get extremely contrarian, I would look at Porzingis and DeAndre Ayton.
All right. I like that. So interesting. Yeah. With all the centers on the slate, especially on DK, even though you can have 2, I do think Porzingis maybe a little lower owned, even with the big game. And because he has a big price tag too. Maybe on FanDuel, it's a little different with him being power forward eligible and you need 2. But I don't mind him for tournaments. Luka for me is really interesting. I love Luka. And everyone's going to be like, oh, you just play Luka every time. He's so safe. I agree with all of that. In tournaments, though, I think I'm going to try and fit Giannis with Harden or Harden with Middleton or all 3 of them together. So I think in tournaments, that's where my builds are going to go is to Harden at $300 cheaper. And I don't know if that's going to be a little different. I think a lot of people will try and get Luka and Giannis together, but I much prefer kind of just doing my game stacks. I do like the Milwaukee-Houston game a little more than I like the Dallas-Phoenix game from a stacking standpoint. So I'm probably going to end up with more Harden than Luka. I'm not saying that Luka's not a great play, because he is. And I think for cash, if you're playing cash, it's 100% Luka or Giannis. Mangone, do you agree on that for cash?
Can you repeat it again? Sorry, I was doing something with the corporate.
Yeah, so I said for cash, I would assume that the spend ups, it has to be Luka or Giannis is the question, or both, but I would assume for cash, right?
Yeah, I think it's Giannis. I'd go him over Luka. But yeah, I think the question is,
Luka too in the spend up range, would you rank Harden too?
So I think if you're telling me positions don't matter, it's probably Harden, but the problem is positions do matter. And Luka has that forward eligibility. So there is the route where, that could be something where you might just go Luka because, hey, you prefer the guard instead. That's really going to be the debate, I think, from what I'm noticing and looking at everything. I prefer Harden if you force me to pick. If I'm saying, hey, my life is on the line tonight, I need one guy to score more fantasy points. Who do you want? I'm going to take Harden over Luka here.
We're not going to do that to you, Mangone. But that was kind of that was actually a really good point, because that's what I'm seeing in my builds is the forward position is kind of weak. Giannis is a great play for Giannis, and Doncic is forward eligible. But then you got Ayton. I think he's a good play, but he's a little expensive. Tatum, I don't think people are going to own him. Nurkic, even with the big game, I don't think many people will go to him. It's really not that strong of a position after the two guys at the top. So I think a lot of people are going to start builds. And honestly, if they want to do the two stud build, I think it's easier to play Giannis and Doncic together, and you can put them in the forward spots and then just start your builds from there. Because I think guard and center is where all the value is, personally.
So yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to make a bold prediction. If I, with looking at this slate, I think, because I always try to see if I can fit in two studs. It's kind of a cash approach. We want to build up our floor. But I think this second tier, this upper middle tier is so stacked. We could see a Giannis plus try to get Karis LeVert, Jason Tatum, Middleton, that type. And if those guys get you a 55 or 60 type game, and you pair it with Giannis, that's going to be far more optimal than a Giannis Luka combination. So in tournaments, I might lock in one stud and not two, and try to get as much exposure as I can to upper middle range. I think that could be real sneaky.
See, I'm gonna play an argument against you, AP. I do like some of the guys up there, but when I went through all of them, I don't think there's a lot that I love. I'd say that. I think the three, or at least two of them that you mentioned, I liked, but I feel like a lot of them feel a bit overpriced. But in tournaments, yeah, I get it, because you can obviously get an extra guy. I think spending for two studs is more of the high floor approach, but I do agree there is some upside here. But I do think some of these guys are expensive. LeVert and Middleton, my two favorites, though, two that you mentioned that I think are really strong.
Yeah, I agree. Those are two of my favorite guys in that range. But guys, we got through all the games. We're at 118 likes. We got 273 people watching live right now, guys. Let's get over that 150 so I can give out some more RPS swag. We got the hats. We got the shirts. So hit that thumbs up button. Really helps us out. But boys, let's finish this out. Let's talk about our favorite play of the night, the guy who's going to break the slate. Don't give me Giannis or Harden, Doncic. Everyone knows those plays. Who's the guy, you see in, not the top range that's going to break the slate? Mangone, we'll start with you.
Sorry, I was trying to answer someone in chat. They're having an issue with the Run Pure Bet stuff, so trying to help them out. And then my mouse wasn't working. You said the top end, my favorite top stud, JSU? Now you're muted,
so
JSU.
I want you to give me your favorite play, a slate breaker that's not Luka or Giannis or Harden, Westbrook. Don't give me the top 4 or 5 guys. Give me someone that, is maybe a little contrarian take that's going to break the slate.
All right. Yeah, I'll go with Jared Allen. I mean, I really like Jared Allen in this spot. I think that Jared Allen's the guy. He's just going to dominate. I see him going for over 40 fantasy points, and at 5'8", give me that.
All right. Can't complain with that one. AP, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Robert Covington. I just think if the Rockets want to keep this game close, they're going to need a big game from him. He's playing massive minutes. We need him, for him to break a slate, though, we need him to get hot from 3-point line. And he was 1 for 9 against the Mavs. But I think he was like 0 for 8, and then I think he hit his last one. So maybe that helps him out. But if he can have a better shooting night, he at 6'4", I mean, in this matchup, if we predict the proper game flow, he could have a monster game. I think we could get like 45 plus points from him, and you're going to be different off of those Harden and Westbrook lineups.
So you like Covington as your guy?
Yeah, I mean, I like Giannis. I like Giannis, not Giannis, but Giannis.
You don't like Giannis. We already established this.
But yeah, Covington, I think if I'm, I can't say the obvious plays. So
I like it. No, go with it. That's good. So my guy's going to be in that same game, but I'm going with Chris Middleton. I think he breaks a slate. I think he goes for over 50. And I think you're going to need him. This is a perfect matchup for him. If they're focusing on Giannis and, kind of caving the paint in and forcing Giannis to give up the ball when he drives, Middleton's that secondary scorer, and he can for sure handle scoring on this Houston team because they don't play very good defense. They just want to push the pace, and I think Milwaukee can run with them. So I like Middleton a ton. But yeah, I think that's it. Guys, we got to 128 likes. So let's give out. We're gonna pick one guy from the chat. Mangone, why don't you do the scroll and find one guy?
All right, I'm scrolling now. I'm looking at I'm looking at you, so I don't see what's going on. I'm scrolling, and we landed on Brajal Patel. So Brajal, send a DM to the Run Pure Sports account on Twitter, and you have won a T-shirt. So we'll hit you up there. Just send us all the info, and we'll help you out.
Yeah, and if you're in Discord, just hit up Big T because he's the one who will be shipping out the gear. So either hit up Run Pure Sports on Twitter or hit up Big T if you're already in the Discord chat. But guys, that's gonna do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. But for me, JSU, Mangone, AP,